So, where do the 49ers go from here, John? That is another one of the big questions to answer.
Let me call Kyle Shanahan. I'll let you know, okay?
Okay. We'll just wait here, put him on speaker.
Okay, I'm seeing you.
While John's doing that, subscribe to this YouTube page and like the video.
Yep, check out the podcast below in the description as well.
Matthew Stafford off of the table. Let me get option one out of the way for everybody now. Jimmy Garoppolo starts for the 49ers this year. So there's option one. Okay?
Yeah, that feels like the worst option if we just did a little ham poll and put our ears to the street and texted everyone we know, our season ticket holding buddies. That is not a good option right now, and that is not one people want to see.
Very unpopular. Yep.
That is extremely unpopular. Now, you don't make decisions based on social media. No one, no teams care. At least the good ones don't. Like, they don't mind at all. But, like, every guy that comes off the board, and really there are just two true guys that were on the board, right? Deshaun and Stafford. The other names, which I have written down, Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins, which I don't think will go away because they do have a connection toward the coach. And Matt Ryan, for example. Matt Ryan's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. If they traded a 4th-round pick, let's say, for Matt Ryan, just to enable them to get out of his contract, I was texting with someone today. If you did like a post-June 1, the numbers are cheaper. The salary cap's a little complicated. And just had Matt Ryan as your starting quarterback next year instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, you are better. Here's the other thing with Matt Ryan. He's durable. Like, part of the Jimmy Garoppolo conversation is like, yeah, but Cousins, Goff, all these guys are durable. That's, to me, the biggest knock on Garoppolo is like at any moment he can hurt something and he's just out. And it's just there he is in a suite, like with the backup running backs who are also hurt. Like Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, like they're great. Their attribute that just trumps Jimmy is I know they can play. Now, Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins, for example, do not move the needle like Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is more talented than those guys.
Yeah.
Now, my thing with Matt Ryan is he did win an MVP playing for Kyle Shanahan. So he knows the offense, and he was really, really successful. And the one thing you would say, like I'd rather have Matt Ryan for a mid-round pick than have to trade like a 3rd to get Cousins and have to pay him a lot and kind of stuck for 2 years. Because Matt Ryan is really like a high-level bridge where I think I can win with him, but I'm not stuck with him for too long. And he's just a high-level guy, and I know Kyle likes him. And I feel like I could win next year. And when I say win, like make the playoffs with Matt Ryan. Cousins probably could too, but not as confident on that one.
Yeah, as someone who we've talked about Cousins for a long time, at this point, if you said, who would you rather have as the Niners quarterback next year, Cousins or Garoppolo? I would say Cousins. And I don't love the idea of Cousins, but I really hate the idea of the starting quarterback not being the starting quarterback for 13 weeks out of the season, right? 12 weeks out of the season.
The way I ranked him is I went Ryan, Cousins, Jimmy.
Here's my problem. Arthur Smith just took over the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think you can get Matt Ryan for a 4th-round pick.
Why not?
I just think it would cost more to get Matt Ryan.
Probably would.
I mean, Alex Smith, what did the Niners get from the Chiefs? 2 2s?
Yeah, but he was way younger.
But not as good.
Andy needed a quarterback.
Yeah, but there are multiple teams that needs quarterback. The Niners need a quarterback. The Colts need a quarterback.
Alex Smith at that time, that was 2013. He's 36.
He's just been
he was
replaced
way
by
younger.
Colin Kaepernick.
Matt Ryan guy will be 36 years old in May.
I know. I think it would cost. I think at this point, if you told me they got him for a 3rd, I would feel like that's an easy deal you don't even think twice about.
Well,
but usually NFL quarterback trades are not easy deals you don't think twice about.
Well, here's the other thing. If Matt Ryan is on the block, the teams that like Washington was sniffing around, the Bears, like why wouldn't they want him? His market for teams that need a quarterback would be those teams. Right?
I think my prediction right here, tell me, you might think I think Matt Ryan would cost 2 2s.
I could not trade 2 2s for Matt Ryan.
I understand.
Like, I'd rather have just roll with Jimmy Garoppolo and draft a guy for 2 2s. You're not crazy because he's just been productive. He's been a good player for a long time. He's a high level guy. He stays healthy, and it's supply and demand, right? There are just other teams. Like, why wouldn't Washington do that?
And if you're Atlanta, you're like, wait, there's a lot of pressure on us. We just hired a new coach. Like,
yeah, but he wants a mobile quarterback. I know that his scheme likes a mobile quarterback.
So what's he going to do?
You think? What do you think? Kirk Cousins would cost less than Matt Ryan?
Well,
Like, would you trade for Kirk Cousins for
Here's
2?
The problem
Would you rather
like
have Cousins for 2 or Matt Ryan for 2 twos?
Ugh. Cousins for a 2?
See, I don't really want either of these
I know.
for that.
But the problem is the Vikings.
I like both these guys for 4th-round picks.
Yeah, the Vikings might not. Kirk might not be cheap because the Vikings, like the Kirk Cousins and their offense, is not their problem.
No, he can keep them competitive. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be available because if I'm Minnesota, my attribute to like get me in the mix next year, which I think you kind of saw, if I can stay around 8-9 wins, I'm going to have a chance. In that December push. My offense is good. I have a young star quarter or wide receiver. I have another wide receiver that I love. I just paid a running back. I've invested into my offense.
Would you rather
To me, the Matt Ryan thing is more new coach. You draft really high. You draft one of these young quarterbacks, and you just start from scratch, and you get rid of Matt Ryan. Now, you're right. I'm talking more like a fanboy than I am realistically. You have to factor in if Matt Ryan's available, he's under contract, he's a high-level guy, and he produces, and a ton of coaches and coordinators are going to like this guy infinitely more than every fan we know. It won't even be close.
Especially Kyle Shanahan and the Falcons.
But I think like the Matt Nagy's, the Ron Rivera's, like he would have a big market. Is it inconceivable that like the Colts would just trade their 1 for Matt Ryan? Because what if Matt Ryan could give him 3 years what Phillip Rivers just did there in the playoffs every year?
I think his contract is basically a 2-year deal.
If you were Chris Ballard, would you give him a 1 for Matt Ryan? I think you'd think about it.
I think you would too, because I think this is what
you're right.
This is what I always think about with quarterbacks.
He can't be had for a 4th.
Well, you got to remember this with a quarterback. If you're going to get a quarterback, it has to hurt when you trade him. It hurts. It always hurts when you trade for a quarterback. Always.
Yeah,
and it might work out.
Like the Lions fans, like
it
just Stafford being up with Goff, it hurts.
It hurts. It never. Tell me a quarterback trade that doesn't hurt when you make
it. It didn't with Jimmy.
You're right, but that's what made that trade feel insane. It's like, wait, we just got a quarterback and it didn't hurt. Like it doesn't make sense.
It didn't hurt at all.
The Bill's like, it'll hurt when you send him back for a 5th.
You know what it turns out, guy? Too good to be true is probably a little unfair, but it felt a little easier than it turned out to be, right? It's like, God, we just got a franchise quarterback for a second, and he came to those, and then ACL injury. Then even when he gets his team in the Super Bowl, he kind of got crushed, and the next year's a disaster. Mm-hmm. It was a rocky road with that too. It wasn't smooth sailing. It wasn't like, God, we fleeced Bill.
No, but it was a win-win trade in the end, and low risk for both teams. I mean, the Niners needed a quarterback, so
I do think where the Niners trend. I think where the Niners trend now a little bit more is the draft than they do with this quarterback market, unless they can get one of these guys for quote unquote relatively cheap. If they get like Matt Ryan or Cousins for like a couple 3s, I think they would do that. I have a hard time seeing them trade 1st and 2nd round picks for quarterbacks in their late 30s. I have a hard time, even when it's a Matt Ryan that hadn't won an MVP with Kyle and Cousins that Kyle wanted football Mary for way too long. It didn't make any sense. Like, Kyle, you're the good looking one in this relationship. Why are you in love with this guy? And we're like, oh, we got past it. Now it feels like, yeah, he still got the apple of his eye, kind of. It's weird. Yeah. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's just gone, would you? Still kind of out there.
It won't be gone until he's out of the league.
Yeah, no. It's not inconceivable that Kirk Cousins,
then he'll be on staff.
Even when he's older, is a backup quarterback for the Niners, maybe in like 25 or something, right? It's not crazy. So same with Matt Ryan. Like, I could see a 39-year-old Matt Ryan being a Niners backup quarterback if one day, like, their version of a star quarterback is making $30 million if they draft a guy, and Matt Ryan's like his 40-year-old $1 million backup at the end of his career.
Since you mentioned trade other options, 12, maybe you stay put, you get a guy. 12, you move up to get a guy. 12, you move back and take Mac Jones. 12, you stay at 12, you make that pick, and you move up. Maybe you get Mac Jones in the 2nd round, or you have to move up with your 2nd round pick to get, I'll use Mac Jones' name again. I guess you could throw Kyle Trask in there, although we're not, But those are I think those are all the draft options. Move up, take a guy, stay there, take a guy, move back, take a guy, or move up from the 2nd round, take a guy, or stay put in the 2nd round, take a guy.
I think it's very, very hard to gauge what that top 10 group is going to do until we figure out, like, are the Jets keeping Sam Darnold or are they trading Sam Darnold? Are the Miami Dolphins keeping Tua or are they going to trade Tua? Because if I tell you right now that both those two guys are there, it doesn't feel likely, but this league, you never know. All of a sudden, what if Atlanta keeps Matt Ryan and they just don't draft a guy? It's pretty clear the Lions ain't drafting a quarterback. Like I think they're kind of just bottoming out. So all of a sudden you go, well, can we just kind of wait?
Yeah. Also, are the Texans going to make Deshaun not show up to camp? Or are they going to trade him before the draft?
This is where it's really easy to go. If this was a fanboy show where you just be freaking, where you go, listen, there's a month and a half of dealings to be done. Free agency happens before the draft. We have to let some of these things play out before you can even comprehend, well, is there just going to be the third quarterback going to be there at 12? Or are all these teams taking quarterbacks? Or what if I just told you Darnold and Tua stay? Well, then it goes Trevor Lawrence, and then a quarterback's not getting picked for a couple spots. And we keep talking about the Colts and the Washington football team and the Bears, who are clearly in pursuit of quarterbacks. They're way behind you, right? So there's a great part about sucking a little bit down the stretch. You're ahead of some of your competition. And then some of your competition that's ahead of you, which is legit, right? If the Miami Dolphins get rid of Tua, then all of a sudden you can check the number 2 for sure. Same with the Jets if Sam Darnold goes. Now, who's to say that, like, would Tua or Darnold end up on the Niners? I don't know. That it's hard to do. You can't do an absolute conversation with this right now. We're way early. I saw Schefter or someone tweeting like, this is the first time this happened since the Alex Smith deal. These trades typically happen at the combine at the earliest.
Yeah.
So we're a little out of the timeline whack. So it feels, because I know it feels like when we were texting about it, now we're talking about it like we're in it. We're not really in it yet. The Senior Bowl just happened. The combine's usually where I think a lot of teams get their bearings, right?
Right, but I think part of what makes you feel that way is, and this happens in the draft when like the first of any particular of a desired position group goes, what's the phrase you always love? It's like, oh, there was a run on receivers, and you feel like, okay.
Like could Tua, Darnold, and Matt Ryan be traded the next month?
Like, do people now there's one less piece in this puzzle, so it makes everybody a little more desperate. It puts everybody a little more on edge. The housing market starts going crazy. It makes people more likely to just throw in bids.
It's a domino.
You don't get to take a week to make a decision. You just don't want to be knocked out again, right?
Is there a chance tomorrow in the office, Frank Reich looks at Chris Ballard and goes, bro, life's too short. Let's just call the Falcons right now, say, hey, we'll give our first round pick for Matt Ryan, see what they say.
Especially if did the rest of the league sit around going for 4 days going, man, have you guys heard the Rams are trying to get a deal? The Rams are trying to get, or did it blindside everybody?
I text someone in the mix once I think Peter King tweeted out on Saturday that this thing's moving fast and this is probably going to happen on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Text someone that was in the conversations, just knew what was going on, said that is probably true, if not sooner. And then 3 or 4 hours later, I got an OMG for you. So I do think things move fast. Maybe it's stupid for me to even, because the combine no longer exists. We're in the mix right now, right? The Darnold, the Tua, the Matt Ryan, like these calls are being made right now, right?
I think it's as simple
Deshaun,
as
like it's all happening.
When you walk by a restaurant and there's a line out the door, you go, it adds urgency, right? They love put it on the website where it's like buy, it says like only 3 left. Like, so if on the quarterback button there was 5, now it's only 4 left. It's just, you're right. I don't know if any other year's timeline can replicate the fact that right now a guy just got traded before the end of January. 2 guys, actually, it turned out.
Yeah, 2 guys.
So I don't think we can be surprised again.
Well, I think Sam Darnold and Tua are names I didn't write down, but those are names to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
well, what if I told you right now then the Niners traded their second-round pick for Tua?
Having watched Tua this year, John, I wouldn't love that. Not very much.
I wouldn't like that at all. I'd say that's pretty stupid. But what if I told you they got a third for Sam Darnold?
I would like to pay less for Sam Darnold and more for Tua Tagovailoa.
Because I don't think it makes any sense for the Dolphins to get rid of Tua for anything less than a second, right? Just from their business standpoint.
Yeah.
The way they just, in the Rosen, there's precedent. And I think if you're the Niners or the Colts or whoever, you're like, That's where the Dolphins are kind of in a weird spot. They're just like, we can't give, maybe they don't trade Tua till the draft, right? What's the rush on him like that? For where I'd say Darnold and the Jets, it might make a little more sense to just get him out of there before OTAs, right? Or before, maybe players start coming in to work out and just kind of, I don't know if there's a huge rush with Tua. Because you're not going to give him away and you're just going to, they're in the process of doing all this work for the next couple months, where I think Darnold would be much more likely to be a name in February where Tua could 100% still get dealt, but it might happen the night of the draft, right? Or that next day, right?
Yeah.
A little Rosen-ish.
Yeah, current staff, not a new staff. I mean, I guess Joe Douglas.
I also think if you're the Dolphins, you're picking 3, not 2. So you go, well, we'll just get our number one guy that's not Trevor Lawrence. Well, what if the Jets take that guy?
Well,
right?
but see, what the Jets do could affect you, right? If the Jets are staying with Darnold, they might. How far back do they have to go? They might stay put, right? If the Jets keep Darnold on draft night, Miami goes, oh my God, we could get the second best quarterback in the draft.
Yeah. AKA maybe the guy that we view as like a number one guy in a normal draft, non-Trevor Lawrence, right?
Now, the risk there is that the Jets would trade out of that spot and somebody would come swoop your guy.
Which I think would be, if you are keeping Sam Darnold.
Especially if you're like Atlanta at 4. I think you could do a deal with the Jets, and the Jets would happily do that if they're keeping Darnold.
That's why if you're Atlanta and you're moving up to get your number one guy, it does make sense to get rid of Matt Ryan, doesn't it? And just start.
Yes, absolutely. That's where you convinced me on that, yes.
So there might, but this is what I'm saying. Like,
there's a lot still out there for the Niners. That's the point.
Yeah, there's just a lot of movement, because if I told you that it gets reported in the next month, Matt Ryan is being traded to the 49ers, or let's say to the Colts, and Sam Darnold is going to stay, then all of a sudden it might make some sense for those two to flip-flop. I think the Jets go, we didn't just suck all year to go from 2 to 8. Like, we still want one of the best players. But we're keeping Sam Darnold. We'll take Jamar Chase, right? Or Penei Sewell, and we'll move him to right tackle, or whatever they're going to do. I like your restaurant analogy. I think there's just a lot of moving parts, and we're going to see if the dam just broke. Yeah. Because I don't know. This is unprecedented times with the no combine.
I'm on edge. That's what I know.
So you're just ready for shit to just start
happening. Just not turning my phone off during movie night.
Well, have you seen any good movies lately?
No, I heard Snowpiercer is a good movie, but that was the first I've heard of that.
What do you find Snowpiercer?
I don't know. I haven't even looked. I just found out about it a few hours ago.
I'm going to write that down.
Somebody tell us what they think.